Hey everybody, welcome to episode 95 of Photography Insights, this show that interviews people from around the photography world. Today I'd like to introduce you to someone who has travelled a lot of the world. Someone that's been to the Arctic and lived with reindeer herders, and who has been to war with a camera. Example of places he served or worked include Moscow, Germany, Northern Ireland, Edinburgh, Mongolia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, New Zealand and Namibia. Stu-Mckenzie's life started off in the army, and he's had some unique experiences which he talks to us about. He's a calm, collected and humble bloke who likes helping others. I do urge you to check out his collection of photography that shows a mixture of culture, travel, portraiture and landscapes. Stu also provides some great tips for those wanting to get out in the cold, and even more of these are available on his YouTube channel. I recently came across Stu's work to do with veterans and PTSD, so check out Project Mindscape. In this show we also discuss the combat camera team, working with the SAS, preparation for trips, gear survival in the Arctic, military police, hangovers in Edinburgh Castle, maths and guide numbers, working as a BBC cameraman, infrared and converted 5DSs, meeting Neil Armstrong and working with Don McCullin. Of course, Stu goes through our random questions, so find out all about his daydreams. We do mention quite a lot of artists and friends on this show, so please do check the links in the show notes and on the website. I don't want to spoil the fun for you, so I'll leave that. And obviously we do put links to Stu's Instagram, his YouTube and his website. So please do check out his YouTube and his website, where you can see a lot more of his work. And in the meantime, obviously I'd like to thank the friends of the show, which is David at Film Dev. So for anyone with film developing needs, please do check him out. Very reasonable rates and a fantastic service. And obviously Pete at Static Age, where they've got some lovely designs on offer, and he works with some wonderful people. So I suppose all we've got to wait now for is the music, and await our lovely guest Stu. And welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're quite welcome. I'm very excited to talk to you because, again, you are a very different artist and photographer, aren't you?
I hope so. Certainly my background is different from a lot of people. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I think I can definitely concur on that. I have to say that the photography is really, really nice. I love the mixture of like landscape, but then you've got a lot of real stuff, sort of portraiture sort of based.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I loved it. I mean, I love landscapes anyway, going out and doing landscapes. For me, it's like fishing. You know, when you hear people talk about fishing, where it's not about catching a fish, it's about being on the riverbank, all day chilling out. So landscape photography for me is exactly that. It's going out into the countryside, sitting there watching the sunrise. And if I get a great image, fantastic. If I don't, do you know what? I've been outdoors all day and it's really good for your mental well-being. And that's what it is for me, landscapes. But then, as you say, the other side to that is my travel and the sort of cultural stuff that I do. And again, there's just something really amazing about meeting, people who have nothing, who are tribal. There might be, those kind of people that migrate, they herd animals over long distances, and living with them, experiencing their life is something that's, for me, is just incredible, and it makes you humble as a person. And if I can capture their life and record that, then amazing. That they've allowed me to do that.
Oh God, yeah. It's funny because me and a mate was just talking earlier. That's John at Instinctive. Yeah. We were saying, do you think it's wrong that we're jealous of going to some of these war zones for photography? I said no. I said I feel exactly the same. But we're both saying we're both such softies. We'd probably end up crying our eyes out. And not concentrating on what we should be doing.
Yeah, and so sorry.
No, I was just going to say. So, how do you, sort of separate yourself when you're in these places?
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I think my background has been has given me that foundation. I was in the army for 24 years, and in that 24 years, I did a lot of work with the combat camera teams, either as a cameraman, photographer, and towards the end, I was leading those teams as the team leader. So, yeah, that kind of gave me the foundation. So if I go anywhere, like anywhere that's inhospitable, and that can be inhospitable because of the weather, because of the conditions you live in, or somewhere that's hostile, then I don't know. I kind of feel I've got that experience and the foundation that allows me to cope with that. And of course, the thing you have to consider is the mind, your own mind, not mind, but your own mental state of when you're there and how you deal with that. And if it's somewhere like Mongolia, yes, it's cold, it's uncomfortable, but it's such an amazing place. You've got amazing people that you kind of just forget about the hardship side of it, right. And when you're making fantastic images, that's what really gets you excited and pushes you on a little bit, and when you see the Mongolian kids going out in minus 20 and they've got no gloves on and they've got a t-shirt on or whatever, and they're smiling and running around chasing dogs and things, you kind of think, yeah, it's not too bad, is it?
No, life's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't whinge about it.
Jesus Christ. It's so different.
It is. Yeah, it's hugely different. I went to the Arctic a couple of years ago and I lived with reindeer herders. And as you do.
As you do.
And they are migratory. So they're constantly on the move with the herd of reindeer. They had about 2,000 reindeer. A very traditional way of life. Everything they wear is made of reindeer fur. There's a few outer garments that are made from felt and other materials that they've traded, but they live in these like wigwams, like teepees, called chums, and it's just clad in felt and reindeer fur, and it's warm inside. They have a little fire they put up, but every 2 to 3 days they're taking this down, packing it away onto a sledge that's pulled by reindeer. They move, set it up again, and they'll do that in down to minus 50. And I went there and I was actually quite worried about the cold because I'd never experienced temperatures down to that level before, so that was my big worry. And I thought I was prepared and I had the right equipment. And I turned up in all my expedition clothing. And the first thing the elder of this tribe said was, "You're going to die wearing those clothes within a day." I thought, great, thanks. What should I wear? And he said, well, if you were here for a long time, we'd make you some reindeer furs. And that's what they wear. They wear, reindeer furs. But it was just to hear that, you're going to die within a day wearing those clothes. Okay, great. Jeez. I thought I was prepared. But yeah, it's hilarious. Hilarious.
I mean, that's not even the danger of a war zone. It's Mother Nature.
Yeah, very harsh environment. And, they were on the Arctic tundra, so it's flat, no trees, and the wind just whips across it. And their living is their reindeer. They eat reindeer, they trade reindeer, they use every part of that reindeer. So that is their life, and it's a very hard life for them. And I was trying to fit into that life for a couple of weeks, and at times I felt I was a real hindrance. So like when they were putting up their chums, it took them 20 minutes. And if I tried to help, it would take them much longer. So they quite often said, no, just stand over there. We'll do this. And everybody knew what they had to do. Everybody knew what their job was. And I think in those environments, you can't mess around. And they've obviously learned that through, their lives and the lives of their, previous relatives. And so everyone knew what their role was, and they just got on with it, did it very quickly. And and I suppose that's how they survive, to be able to work like that.
I think that's different. It's like you say, it's the word survival, not a job, and it's not normal living. It literally is. You've got to survive to keep going.
Absolutely. And photography wise, I was really pleased what I come away with. So that was good. I had an exhibition actually I was living in Cheltenham at the time, and I had an exhibition in Cheltenham, which went down really well. And the best thing about the Arctic in December is you only get 3 hours of daylight, 3 to 4 hours of daylight. I know, but the best thing about that is you get this protracted golden hour, because it's almost like sunrise just goes straight into sunset sometimes. So you have this amazing light, in the 4 hours that you have, the light is just lovely. So for photography, it's amazing. Amazing.
There's a top tip.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, what was it like with your gear then? I'm not a techie gearhead, but I'm interested. How does it survive at these temperatures?
Yeah, that's another thing I was worried about. So I had my own camera. I shoot on a Canon 5D Mark IV, and Canon had lent me a one of the 1D Mark IIIs or whatever it was at the time. And I'm like you, I'm not techie. It's a tool to shoot and make images. I don't know all the ins and outs of everything on the technical side. But the issue I had was when you get down to sort of minus 25 and below, the LCD screens freeze. So the LCD screen on the top, you don't get any information, and you can't view your images on the back. So you can't chimp your images. So that's a good thing, right? Not being able to, it's like shooting film again. You can't see what you've got. And the thing is, the thing for me that was the most annoying was I'm left eye dominant. So my when I shoot, my left eye is against the viewfinder, which means my nose and lips are kind of right on the LCD screen.
Yeah.
In very cold temperatures, the problem with that is, and I found this quite a lot, was my nose was sticking to the glass of the LCD screen.
Oh my God.
So I ended up with this patch on my nose where I kept leaving skin on the back of my camera. So that was interesting. But things I learned and I researched before I went were things how to treat the cameras in those temperatures, and for example the condensation. If you're shooting outside and you go straight into the tent and it's warm, then you're going to get loads of condensation, and your cameras will be soaking. Clearly, if you have to go back outside, that condensation is going to freeze instantly. So that's an issue. So if what I used to do was I would leave my cameras outside if we were going in to have a cup of tea or whatever. I'd take my batteries out the camera, take them inside to keep them warm, and then I'd go back out and shoot. And then at the end of the day, I would put my cameras in a bag, in like a canoe bag, a waterproof bag. I'd bring them inside, leave them by the door, and I'd gradually bring them closer to where the warmth was inside the tent. And that way your condensation forms on the bag and not necessarily on the cameras inside the bag. Yeah, so that was a clever tip that I figured out, and I'd learned. The other one was, don't change your lenses, because not so much for the snow, even if it's not snowing, because it's so cold. There's a rubber seal on a lot of lenses that makes it fit snugly against the body of the camera, and that rubber hardens and it can break off. So so I had two bodies, so I was just careful with my lens selection. And if I thought one day, right, okay, I really need to shoot with this lens tomorrow, I don't know, my 35mm tomorrow, then I would change it that evening in the tent once the condensation had gone and it had warmed up, ready for the next day. And so you kind of do have to look after your kit. Yeah.
That's very different. And also planning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to do a lot of planning for it. Yeah.
God, that's interesting.
Yeah. That whole trip took me a year to plan. And I had to get permission from the Russian authorities, from the FSB, the old KGB. I had to apply to go there because it's classed as a border zone, and they don't like foreigners going to the Russian border zone. So,
and especially an
ex-soldier, yeah.
Sorry, spy. No,
yeah,
soldier.
Exactly. Yeah, an ex-soldier running around with a camera in Russia didn't go down very well sometimes. But yeah, I knew how the Russians work. I'd spent 2 years in Russia, living in Moscow, working for the BBC, and I kind of knew the processes, so I knew it would take a long time to plan.
So it's not really for the faint-hearted, then, is it?
No, but I'd recommend it to anybody.
If you're not,
yeah,
you would.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The experience of planning your own expedition and researching it, and actually going and pulling it off. What you get out of that, the benefits you get out of that are amazing, and the confidence you walk away with, is amazing.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I think some of this is probably coming back to your starting life as a soldier, isn't it?
Yeah. I think you're right.
And I think some of this is obviously because, like you said, you're from a military family, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. My dad was in the army. He was in the army for 22 years, and he was in the Royal Signals, so sort of communications for his whole career. And towards the end of his career, I decided to join the army, and he was very disappointed when he found out I was going to become a military policeman. Because I think he got in trouble with the military police in his early days when he was based in Cyprus. I think he got into a fight with a military policeman. So when I said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm going to be a military policeman," he wasn't happy.
Yeah, they seem to have that reputation.
Oh yeah, they don't have any friends. And so I joined the army. That was when 1989. And joined as a military policeman. My first posting was Edinburgh, as I think we talked about earlier. I went to Edinburgh, and I lived in Edinburgh Castle for 3 years, which was incredible. As a young soldier running around Edinburgh, it was just one big hangover. It was.
This is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's your starting life.
No, honestly, it was incredible. It was incredible. Because
obviously, one thing about an army going into, especially the army, the chances of you getting posted to Ireland back in them days would have been pretty high.
Well, that was my next posting after Edinburgh.
Oh, God.
Right. Yeah, that was my next posting after Edinburgh. I went to Northern Ireland. Do you know what? I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that tour. It was... I don't know. I think as a soldier, those kind of tours sometimes can be the pinnacle of your career because it's an operational tour. That's kind of what you train for. So it doesn't matter what regiment you're in. You are tested on any operational tour. And for me, that was kind of interesting. That tour, it got me into a lot of things. and photography was one of them. I'd been interested in photography anyway, but I think it was that tour in Northern Ireland that really solidified the fact that I wanted to do more photography. And anyway, after Northern Ireland, I went to Germany. I was posted to Germany, and I kept bumping into photographers who were in the army. And I had no idea that the army had its own photographers, professional photographers.
No, you don't hear this,
I had
do you?
no idea at all. So I kept bumping into them, and I inquired about becoming one of these army photographers. And it would mean having to leave the military police. So that's not a bad thing, because, military police as a career choice was fine, but it kind of wasn't really what I wanted. And anyway, eventually I found out more about this very small trade in the army. And I found out there were only 38 photographers for the whole of the British Army, which isn't a lot. So it's a very specialist group of people. I applied to transfer. I had to go on a selection course. And on that selection course, I had to take a portfolio. We had to sit a maths test. And it's weird, isn't it? Because you think about maths and photography, why that? But this was in the days when it was still film. It was, so you're talking, maths actually played a big part in that kind of photography, working out guide numbers for flashes. There's a lot of maths actually involved, working out the logarithms for what extension tubes to use and how to get an exposure and all that kind of stuff. Sensitometry for work, for
so you've done
for color sensitometry. And so it was a maths test. There was you had to present, stand up in front of an audience and present a lecture. And it could be on any subject, but I suppose that's to see if you had the confidence to stand in front of a group of people to do a group photograph. Because in the army, the Queen and royalty visits a lot, and you have to organise a group of people and put the Queen in the middle and take pictures of those groups, which I never did actually, but I know people who did do a lot of that stuff, that kind of photography. What else did we have to do? Then you do what's called a 24-hour exercise. So we were handed a camera. I think it was 3 rolls of film. And you get given an area in the Midlands, and you have 24 hours to produce a set number of images, and that's printed. So from going out, finding those images, taking them, getting back, printing them. And bearing in mind, I'd received no photographic training at this point. So, and the same with all the others on the selection. What they're looking for, I think, was to see if you had the eye, the natural photographic eye, and the ability to go out and be resourceful and get those images, those little projects. It'll be things like people at work, landscape, long exposure, all those kind of things. So I did that. It was 1 week. Oh, we had to do a fitness test as well. I think most courses in the army involve some kind of fitness test, so that was kind of standard. And and I passed that. And I got a place on the 6-month course, which taught me everything about photography, starting from, black and white, processing, developing, technical photography, taking pictures of, broken aircraft parts, and using, multiple flash, painting with light kind of techniques. Everything from then color, PR kind of photography, surveillance photography. It taught me everything. It was an amazing course. And I did that 6 months, loved it. I loved every minute of that course. And I was posted from there as an army photographer. And my first posting was working with the Special Air Service.
I mean, come on, you can't make stuff up.
It was incredible, and I was there for nearly 4 years. as working with them, working with the special forces, and my primary role was working on the counter-terrorist wing. So yeah, it was incredible, and I was all over the place with them. Yeah.
I mean, so the photography you did at the SAS then, is that for their use in the military, or was that for public?
No public. It was all intelligence based and kind of surveillance stuff. So it was all very specialist. But yeah, nothing for public use at all.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, surely you must have had to be ultra fit as well then.
I was anyway. I was quite fit back then. But yeah, I mean, they go through their selection process, don't they? And that's fine. We weren't. You're not expected to keep up with people on big runs. The real day-to-day job of certainly the counter-terrorism side is, yes, it's very physical, but quite often you're sat in places for long periods of time just watching things. So yeah. Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun, and it was certainly a baptism of fire for my photographic career in the army.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. I mean, the class sounds wonderful, to be honest.
Yeah, it was great. Our numbers actually went up from 38 to 43, and went up quite a lot. And we had people who were, ranging from working with special forces all the way through to media and public relations. So, we had guys who were going out on big exercises places and were doing lots of PR kind of work. So, and I was kind of lucky with that. I left Hereford and I ended up being a television cameraman for the army. So I was filming. They sent me on BBC courses. They trained me up. It was really good in terms of training. And they sent me on all sorts of courses to learn how to use all the television camera. And a lot of it is transferable from photography because, you've got F numbers, you've got, gain, which is the same as ISO. The composition is almost the same. Focus is the same, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of transferable skills from one to the other. And I went all over the world doing that. And it was, filming. And all that material was being sent out to news agencies, so it was all over. Yeah. And I remember in one year, it was really busy. I went to 18 different countries in 1 year.
I mean,
it was really busy. Yeah. Really busy.
Some people, that's a lifetime.
Yeah.
And don't even achieve
No,
that.
It was an incredible time. And of course, after 9/11, it got even busier. And so, we were in Afghanistan and Iraq quite regularly.
Yeah.
And that was working with combat camera teams and things like that. And I had footage going out all over the place. It was incredible.
God, it's crazy. And I think this is why the military side's more interesting. Because it is so different. But I'd only interviewed one other person from the military, and he was an instructor, flight instructor. But again, it was great because he was doing it back in the day when film, just like yourself. And he'd had an interesting life because he helped out on the Top Gun film.
Right, yeah.
So because of where he did his career in San Diego, it's the original flight school where they taught him all. And, to me, this sort of stuff, because we all watch stuff about the SAS, we all watch stuff about the army. So it's amazing to hear all this.
No, do you know, it was an incredible time. And I don't think I would be who I am and where I am today without that experience. 24 years, it's a long time. I loved every minute of it, and I'd do it all again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's good to hear because it's not the same for everybody.
No, absolutely.
Is it? Some people do the 16-year stints and the 8 years, and that's enough for some.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as I say, I got sent all over the place, and Yeah, and for me, that was it kind of worked out well for me. A lot of people, when they leave the military, they find it very hard to find work or to transition
Yes.
into back into society in civilian street. And I kind of landed on my feet because I got a job with the BBC as a cameraman. And being ex-military, I think they loved that because they knew they could send me into anything. And, that was fine. And, and, I've been in riots and, I went to Paris the day after the Paris attacks. And I was there for 14 days solid. I've done a lot of good stuff like that as well. During the migration, the migrant crisis, I was in Jordan and Lebanon and Syria and, all of those places. That was an incredible story to cover, a very, very sad story to cover. These people fleeing Syria and seeing the families and children just trying to get away. And that was an interesting time as well.
There's so many of them. That's the thing, you've got such a wide portfolio. What some of the work I really loved was New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand. Have you ever been? I love New Zealand.
That's why I was thinking, oh my god, it brings back memories, and it's the place because there's no one there. There's nothing interferes with nature. It's England, but
it is. Yeah, that's a really good way to describe it. I think you're absolutely right. It's incredible. No, I love it. I've got a really good friend who lives in Wellington. He's one of my best mates, and he's ex Royal Air Force, and I won't, I'll forgive him for that. But there's a lot of banter between us, between the Air Force and the Army. So he wasn't real military, but I take the mick out of him all the time. But so I've been out there a couple of times to go and visit him, and then spread my wings and go further south. But the last time I was there, both of us hired a car from Christchurch, and we did a big tour of the South Island, and it was just so much fun. It was brilliant, and he's a great photographer as well, Gareth. Really, really, it's an amazing place. And to go from the beach in the morning to be up in alpine type mountains in the afternoon is incredible. Yeah.
You've never seen anywhere like it, I don't think, have you?
Absolutely.
And then spend 3 hours or whatever on the ferry.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're in a town with volcanoes.
That's right, yeah.
It's crazy. You just stink of seafood.
That's right. That's right. And everyone is so chilled.
It's a lovely place. I remember landing and looking at, like you said, like the Alps, because it's the entire length of the country on the south, isn't it? It's stunning to look at. And there was a picture of Tianu? That jetty there, and Milford Sounds.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
God, yeah. Apart from all the
exactly, yeah. But I love the place, and you hear a lot of people say, but the flight it's 20 odd hours. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, because when you're there, you forget about the flight in an instant, and it's you've got that whole country in front of you. I mean, they're doing pretty well at the moment, though. We're keeping the COVID at bay, but it would be good to visit again soon.
I agree. Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, so talking of COVID, I mean, how's it affected you as a photographer then?
Yeah, it's been a bit tricky. Obviously, a lot of my stuff I travel, and I had an article published in a travel magazine literally as everyone went into lockdown, so that's kind of had no effect at all, which is fine, but it's tricky, and I'm desperate to get back out to places. Mongolia is one of my favorites. I've got to get back there, and I went to Namibia in November, and that's the first time I've been to Namibia. There's so much more to do there. It's an incredible place. I want to go back there as well. But yeah, can't really do anything at the moment. And I know you can travel to a few places, but I don't know. I think it's just I'm kind of waiting for it all to be a lot safer. Because I don't want to be responsible for spreading anything, and I don't want to bring anything back. And I think it would be a better experience when it's all safer.
Yeah, I agree. I think because of how bad our country's been affected, I think, like you say, it's the other way around. We'll be probably carrying it with us.
Yeah.
Because obviously it happened in Australia, didn't it? A lot of the outbreak over there in the last month was
people bringing it in. Yeah.
Visitors.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is disgusting. So you got to really feel for people. I mean, have you had... because you do your workshops as well. Have you had any of them you've had to sort of postpone?
I cancelled one, and I was lucky that I was working. I was kind of revamping the whole workshop idea, so I was lucky. I'd kind of taken a lot of them offline and to rework on them. So I was kind of lucky that I did that, really. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there struggling. A lot of photographers out there struggling because of this. I really feel sorry for them. You know, my other best mate who lives local to me, he's a wedding photographer, and it's affected him massively. He is now temporarily delivering parcels, you know, to bring in some money. And I think that absolutely. And the problem with that is that with the wedding photography is a lot of people are not cancelling, but they're rebooking for the following year. But of course, they're rebooking a date, coming to him with the date, and he's already got a wedding booked in for that date for someone else. So it's kind of tricky. And I suppose, like many photographers, they're trying to say, speak to us first before you rebook it, and we'll tell you what the availability is. But I think it's hard. It's really difficult times.
Yeah, I mean, who could have ever known it would impact people so crazy like that?
I know, and I know there's talk of a second wave, and it, you know, possibly going to be terrible during winter. But I really hope for everybody's sake that things start easing up. You know, let's see what happens. But fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, all we can do is help support each other, and it's something I've said to a few people. You know, if you're doing something, you're releasing something, you've just got to get the word out there, and you know, help each other while you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the positives for me is that I've had time to work on things that I wouldn't have had time to work on before. So so good. I've been meaning to start a proper vlog on YouTube for a long time, for at least a year and a half, and I've just never got around to it. I've started that now. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I've started that now. I've got a following of 48, which is brilliant. A good start. Well, I've only got three films out, but I'm trying to get one out a week. So that's good. It gives me the time to do that. And if I can continue that momentum, I'll be really happy. And the other thing it's allowed me to do, it's allowed me to get on with admin things like archiving images and, you know, working on stuff in the background that just gets left, you know. So that's been a real bonus. It's just been nice to get out and do things that I wouldn't have done otherwise, or I would have put on the back burner. So that's good.
I agree. Yeah, it's a good time to have a play about. I mean, as I showed you earlier, for anyone listening, what I'm doing, I'm just showing Stu. So I've got chroma cameras, large format. It's called a snapshot. So it's got the basis of a 4x5. You can use your own lens on it, and you get the grass cloud on the back. But what he's given me is a 120 adapter. So this shoot in 6x9. Wow. And, you know, it's such an interesting thing because this is literally handheld. You know, it's lighter than a DSLR.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to be honest, it is. And most of the weight is in that back. which is incredible. So what I was doing tonight was just taking one shot, and then I messaged him and said, "Have I got my settings right?" Because I was like, "Is this where the f-stop is?" Because I'm so inexperienced.
Yeah,
but it's good fun because obviously because I've took the ground glass out the back, I can't see what I'm pointing at. And like you said about your maths, you're going to have to know your focal distance.
Yeah.
So I had it fully extended, and he said it was 2.5 foot. So I made my daughter pose over 2.5 foot away.
Yeah.
Just hope.
Yeah, but it's great to be able to, experiment and play with things like that, isn't it? That's, I've recently, I've shot infrared before, but that was in a surveillance capacity. But I've never shot landscapes or anything like that infrared, even with film. And I had access to all of that through work years ago when we were just on film. But I was recently loaned a Canon 5DS, which was converted to infrared, and Canon loaned me it for about 3 or 4 weeks. And I did a vlog about it. The results are incredible, and I just amazing, I love it. I love it. And I've been looking at infrared images for a long time and thinking, I might give that a go. And I loved it so much, I've actually sent one of my own cameras off now to be converted. So I've just done that. So I'm eagerly waiting that to arrive back home. But I loved it. I just loved the look of it. It's incredible. And one of the, Chris Packham, the nature guy, the wildlife, Chris Packham.
Oh God, yeah.
His photography is amazing. Yeah, and if you look at his infrared stuff that he does with plants and flowers, it's beautiful. And I wanted to do that. I never managed to, but I wanted to kind of do that type of photography with it. Yeah, so I'll definitely give that a go when my own one turns up.
I see some projects coming here. And some
absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's what I did. I took it out. We've got a nature reserve just down the road. And I found around the corner from the nature reserve this absolutely stunning oak tree stood in the middle of a field by itself. And it's on a hill, so you don't get anything behind it. You just get sky behind it. And it was a real find. It was one of those photographic gems. One of my mates said, "Where is that?" I'm not telling you. I will tell him. But it just worked so well for IR, with those blue skies and fluffy clouds. And this single tree sat in the middle of this field. It was just lovely.
Now, did you ever get to try aerochrome then?
No.
Okay. Right. So for anyone listening, so aerochrome was obviously what they use for surveillance. Obviously, a lot of the RAF used it. You'll get the same effects as you will with digital, but it's still film. I think the main thing is it mainly goes red or pink. There's an article on my website by this artist who only shot on an LCA, a Lomo LCA, and his work is stunning. Now, the only reason I mention it now is so important, Stu, if you're interested in trying, the stocks will be gone within 2-3 months. That's it. There's no more left. So it literally will die out.
They'll run out.
There's one guy who bought nearly all the stock, and he's been cutting it up for 120 and 35 mil for years and selling it. And he sent a newsletter recently and said, "I'm down to my last batch."
Wow. That's incredible, though, isn't it? Incredible.
It is. It's like an end of an era again. And, for us people that are new to photography,
you want to try that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And it's all you hear about is, I used to love Kodachrome. Well, that's fantastic, but it has no meaning to me now. So I have to live now. I have no option.
Absolutely.
I can only use what's around me.
No, I remember the RAF surveillance, the aerial surveillance stuff that they used to use that. It was good for highlighting lots of different things, like if you had enemy troops with camouflage nets in a woods, because the foliage would all be red, but the net, because it's not foliage and it's not giving off that IR reflection, it wouldn't glow at red, so you could identify where those positions were. It's quite incredible stuff.
That's
Yeah, I think
cool,
they
isn't
even
it?
used it for like they would search and you could tell where Earth had been disturbed and things like that. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, because it'd be
Yeah, it
different
was
colour,
incredible
wouldn't it? Yeah,
stuff.
it's so
Yeah,
clever. And the
yeah,
lenses, oh my God. There's a few people who
yeah,
use them for large
yeah,
format, and the guy who built this camera that we was looking at, he's building an
yeah,
adapter to use on these
yeah.
cameras,
Wow.
because there's a few people who own the original
Yeah.
surveillance
Well,
cameras.
funny enough, the mate I was telling you about who lives in Wellington in New Zealand, he's an ex Royal Air Force photographer. And so for many
Right,
years,
okay.
the RAF used to have two types of photographer. They had ground photographers and air photographers. Air
Okay.
photographers weren't really photographers. They would load the films onto the aircraft and take them off and then process them. And the ground photographers were, would run around with the cameras and actually taking pictures.
Yeah.
And he was an air photographer for many years. So he did all of that stuff, and he worked with these large reel films and processing them in the back of trucks and, incredible stuff. And he was involved in all sorts of stuff doing that, and then he became a ground photographer. And then when he moved to New Zealand, he's involved. He's like the scene. He runs the scene of crime photography training and stuff now. Yeah, for the police.
So he's had a different career,
completely different. Yeah. Happy to put you in touch with him. He'd be great on, for a bit of a chat. But yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, I just feel that I'd love to try it, but it's 25 to 30 quid a roll. So, and obviously you'd have to use the right filter for it, and you've got to be careful with altitude. And I was like, because I spent time editing this article with him, because he's German and he didn't want to do anything vocal. And I was like, and he says, "Oh, no, I'll give you all my research." And I was like, "God, you are so lovely." And I have to credit David every time for it. All I did was tie up a few letters here and there, and to do it on a plastic LCA.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I think it's ace, and he's done even more research. He's used every different filter to try different results, and
that's incredible.
Yeah,
that is incredible. Yeah,
it's like a niche, though, isn't it? So
it is completely.
I quite like that sort of style, to be honest. Now, obviously, there's one other thing that caught me to your work, and it's Project Mindscape.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell all our lovely listeners about this?
Yeah, so Project Mindscape is essentially it's a workshop that we run in the Lake District, and it's for veterans who are undergoing treatment for mental health issues, whether that's PTSD, whether that's depression, or whatever, if it's mental health issues. And what we do, I say we because it's me and one other guy, a good friend of mine, Tony. We will take them up to the Lake District, and they're accommodated for a week, fed for a week, and we take them out and we teach them landscape photography from scratch. And it's that being in the outdoors, learning a new skill, and doing something that's actually quite relaxing, and they get a tangible result from, by seeing those images on the back of the camera or on a laptop. They get that tangible result, and there's just something about that really does help people, helps their mental well-being. And the reason why I set that up is because in 2009 I was diagnosed with mild PTSD. That year and the previous year, I've been away for about 9 months in Afghanistan and Iraq. And something just, there was a few things I saw, like everyone did, whatever. But it just triggered a little bit of mild PTSD in me. And I was treated, but what they tell you is they'll treat you and teach you how to manage it. It doesn't necessarily go away. So I was treated, learn how to manage it. That was fine. But photography really helped me because I could go out with a camera, like I said earlier with the fishing analogy. It was, for me, it was that, and it was going out, sitting down in an environment outdoors, and just watching that sunset. And if I get a great image, fantastic. But I just found it was so therapeutic for me. I wondered, could this help others? So I actually, before we ran the first trial, I approached Combat Stress, who are the sort of main charity for dealing with veterans with mental health issues. I approached them, and I spoke to the lead occupational therapist there, and she thought it would be a brilliant idea. She explained that they already have like a 2-hour session with people and they do a bit of photography, but to have nearly a week of it would be so beneficial. So we did the first one last November as a trial, and the results that we walked away with were just incredible. It exceeded all of our expectations. So that was just a trial. So what we're doing now is we're actually going to set it up as a charity. So hopefully in October we would have had it set up as a charity, set up and registered as a charity, and we can help more people. So that's kind of where we're heading with it. So we're in those early stages of going through the sort of charity stuff. But I just think it's so worthwhile. I mean, to see the guys that came, on that workshop, to see what they were like when they left and what they were saying, it was just incredible. I mean, it's, it had a real big impact on me, yet alone on them, and they grew in confidence. They forgot about things. They learnt this new skill, and they're all still doing it now. They're all still doing photography now, which is the most incredible thing. Yeah. And I think one of the most important things with this charity when we set it up is, yes, we run the workshops, but we need to have that ongoing support as well, to make sure they continue. And when they're learning photography, they might stumble across something, they can't remember how to do this or that, and they get in touch with somebody and they have, we kind of able to talk it through. So, so that's what we're running. And then, we had a really good result from it. So I was really pleased.
No, it's a really kind thing to do.
Yeah, well, do you know
really
what? It's, I was in the army for 24 years, so it's really nice to give something back. It really is nice to give something back. And I'm quite happy to give my time to do that. Absolutely. And we're probably going to be running maybe 2 or 3 a year. 3 weeks out of a year, what's that? It's nothing. So if it helps people, then why not do it? Absolutely.
I think you're right. I think it's a great setting as well, isn't it? It's a beautiful part of the UK. It's just lakes, hills.
Exactly. And the thing is, we can run it anywhere really, but it just, I think the good thing about the Lake District is you have, if you want a group of people who want that arduous stuff, then brilliant. You can go walking up hills, etc. Yeah. But there's actually really good locations close to car parks that are walkable. Bleat Arm, Buttermere, all the Ryder Water, all of those places, a car park just a couple of 100 meters away. So for them, it's good because we're maximizing the time on photography. And yes, there are places that are being photographed by everybody, but it's the first time that they're doing it. And quite often the first time they've been to the Lake District, and if you're photographing something for the first time, then why not go somewhere that's been photographed a lot, and just, get amongst it really and see what you can produce.
Yeah, I mean, photography's, I think, an ace thing for that. Yeah. I've always asked people, I like this idea of, is it therapy? Is it a job? Is it work? Is it hobby? Or is there a need?
Yeah.
And, for some of us, it's probably a bit of everything. But what would they have done if they haven't have gone to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, you just don't know, do you? You don't know what,
yeah,
if you can have an impact and maybe give a little bit of direction. And like you say, if it's a hobby for them, brilliant. If they take that further, then even better. But I'm
yeah,
hoping that it just gives them a hobby and a skill that will distract them and will, give them a bit of self-worth. And and hopefully they'll find an interest in it.
yeah. I think it's a lovely one to do as well, because I think landscapes, that nice, relaxing environment you
Absolutely.
want, it's so different to
Yeah.
others. I mean, I love my architecture. For me, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. But you can do it as a single person. You can do it as
Yeah.
groups. It's not portraiture where you've got to think of direction and working with people. It's
Absolutely.
completely different,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's them and what's in front of them as a landscape, and they have to find a way to connect with that. And that's the important
Yeah.
thing. They don't have to talk to anyone about it. They just,
No?
we give them the skill, we sit back, we give them a few pointers, because we would have already covered the basics, and we're just there really just to guide them, and it's up to them how they do it. And that's the beauty of it. That's the absolute beauty of it.
No,
Yeah.
that's cool. How do you keep the support going then? Is it social media groups, or is it
Yeah, it
something
was just
different?
really kind of just text messages, and the odd
Okay.
sort of messenger message, if you like. But that will
Yeah.
develop. So what I want to do is, in the future, is I want to have like a mentoring network around the country.
Okay.
So if person A comes on a workshop and they live in Lincoln, for example, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to go out and do a bit of photography, or they want to relearn apertures or shutter speeds or whatever, then they can go to the mentor that's closest to them. They can either get in touch with, phone them, text them, email them, whatever the system is. And even as far as if one of those mentors is going out for the day, all right, I'm going off to the Peak District today to do some photography. Do you want to come along? So I kind of want to push it in that direction as well, so they have that ongoing connection when they finish the workshop.
That's lovely. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea, Stu, honestly.
Yeah,
So would that only be ex-vets then?
What, as mentors or on the course?
Yeah.
No, do you know what? I initially thought veterans to do the mentoring, but we had a meeting with the trustees the other day, and it was pointed out it doesn't have to be veterans; it could be any photographers all around the country.
Yeah, I think you could learn off
Absolutely,
anyone,
yeah,
couldn't you?
yeah. There are some really,
Yeah.
as you know, amazing photographers out there, and I think it can be anybody. We can have anyone as a mentor. Absolutely, yeah.
That's a great thing. If there's anything I can
Yeah,
do,
I appreciate
just
it.
God's sake, let
Yeah,
me
no,
know.
I will do, definitely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think, like you say, it's nice to give something
yeah,
back. I've received, people like yourself
yeah.
time. Some people have given me things, and like Steve with his camera. Recently I've been gobsmacked. I mean, one guy from Australia messaged me and said how much my show had helped him get through
Oh, that's
COVID.
brilliant.
And you're just like, oh my God. And then someone messaged me the other day and said, because of the podcast, a film director's been in touch with them about
Oh,
their
really?
project. And I was like, this is amazing. It's a really interesting story,
Yeah,
which I
sure.
won't say
Yeah,
anything online. And I was like, my God, that's amazing, mate. Because I can't support what they do because of the costs
yeah,
involved. But I've always posted on social media. I talk about because there's a historic
yeah,
reason
yeah.
for it, and it's amazing. And I was like, God, that's I got 3 things in a day, and I was like, this is
That's great,
mental.
isn't it? That is great. You're doing a good
Yeah,
thing then. That is brilliant.
yeah, thank you. And that's that's one of the best things for me. If it's just one comment here and there, or your friends say, no, you are doing the right thing, and when you first talk to someone, it can be a bit nerving at first, and you don't know each other. Our worlds are very different. I mean, God, look at your world.
Yeah, but you know, there's still a common denominator there, isn't there? And that's photography.
There is.
And it doesn't matter what your background is, what your interest is in terms of photography. It's photography, and that's what brings us together.
We are through the main part of the interview, Stu. So what I like to do with my guests is this random questions.
Oh, go on then.
Now, this is what always freaks people out, because like, oh, yeah, I'm ready for that. Yeah. And then they start going, what? So are you sitting comfortably? Okay. I'll start with an easy one. If you could bring back some technology from the past, what would it be?
Wow. That is an amazing question. What technology from the past, what would it be?
Betamax.
Can you imagine Betamax? Funny enough, I just found an old Betamax tape in a box today.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Anything that kind of makes your life easier. I mean, we used to have all sorts of things that weren't electronic back in the day. Something
like your film camera.
Film camera. Yeah. I think that's probably what it would be. It'd be something like a film camera, an old bellows camera that Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Because you could use that with your landscapes anyway. Do you think you'll ever sway towards it again?
Definitely. I've already been thinking about it. And what made me think about that was a friend of mine who had never really been into photography, and I saw on her Facebook page that she had a Patterson developing tanks. So she had this black and white developing kit, and I was like, God, I learned how to do all that. Why can't I do that now? That would be brilliant. So that kind of made me think about it again, and I've been thinking about it for a while now.
Because I think large format for you
would be amazing, wouldn't it?
God, amazing, wouldn't it? I know we said obviously the weight thing, but you look at things like Steve's cameras. It's CNC acrylics, so the weight is going to be the lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, very different. Right, number 2. Will we ever see a female James Bond or a male Miss Moneypenny?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Maybe controversial with a few people, but yeah, why not?
I just think the same, because you think, but it's controversial for
stupid reasons.
for stupid reasons. Because if you think, when he wrote the books back in the 50s, I think it was, because I've read a lot of the original ones, and he was just racist.
Yeah.
Sexist, everything. But that was his period, wasn't it?
Yeah. Update it. This is now. You can have anything. You can have anyone, anything. Doesn't matter. And you know what? A female James Bond would be kick-ass. That would be brilliant.
I think it'd be awesome, wouldn't it? I can't think of who would play it.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's no one that.
But that would be awesome. I'd like to see that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's something in my mind. It's your last day on Earth. What song do you play?
Easy one for me. It's one of my favourite songs. Not a lot of people know it, but it's the Blue Tones and If.
Blue Tones and If.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that song, but there's just something about it. I don't know why. I just love it. It's a great song.
So you could do it on
easy.
repeat.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has to.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one's an ultimate test for you. You've been commissioned by someone you know and trust. They said, if you press a button at a time and they'll call you, they will wire you £1 million. Now, you're not allowed to ask any questions. What do you
Say
do?
that one again.
So you're basically hired to press a button for £1 million, but you're not allowed to ask any questions. But it's someone you know or trust asking you to do it.
That's difficult, isn't it?
Mm.
So is this a would I do it or not?
Yeah.
I think no.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't know
what it is.
What the
it could kill 1,000 people. Yeah, no. I think it would be no.
It could be a button. It could be.
Yeah.
It could unleash hell.
Yeah.
It could just trap a butterfly. It could do anything.
But I'd rather not do it than risk some catastrophe. Yeah.
I always find it interesting because people say, "Yeah, of course it will." So you just everyone's so different. It's funny. Okay, so if you could have the skill from an animal, would you like, for instance, the sight of an eagle, the prowess of a tiger, the longevity of a turtle, or the ability of an amphibian?
Wow. There's one that stands out for me straight away, and that is the eagle.
Okay.
Yeah. I absolutely love birds of prey. Anyway, this is something about birds of prey. I love them. They're amazing. Owls in particular. But yeah, if I had that sight of an eagle, because this is one of my, I daydream a lot. This is my thing of flying around the sky like an eagle and just watching everything happen underneath me, watching the world go by. So yeah, eagle.
I think it'd be amazing in that sense, wouldn't it? Because they can see prey for so long, so far, but you're flying as well. And obviously, as a human, flight is.
I know, yeah.
It's something you always think about, isn't it? My daughter will be very impressed. She adores
Really,
owls.
I love owls. Yeah, just hearing them, just hearing them going along, it's just brilliant. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. Your last one. Astronauts are famously allowed to take a small item with them on their journey. What item would you like to sneak onto the moon's surface?
Well, how small?
There's a box. I can't remember. Maybe 40 centimeters or something. There's a very specific, and it's not very big. I remember him saying. And this is
if we could fit a camera in it, it'd be a camera.
It'd be a camera. It's been done.
Okay.
Armstrong was there.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but with his Hasselblad strapped to him. Yeah.
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 Do you know, I interviewed the bloke who helped build that.
Well, I've met Neil Armstrong, so they.
Oh my God! You've been.
I met him in Afghanistan the year before he died. Yeah, so he came out. He came out to Afghanistan. I was on an American base in Kabul, and I was stationed there working with the Americans. And he came out. So it was Neil Armstrong. It was the commander of Apollo 13, Tom Hanks, the guy Tom Hanks played. I can't remember his name. The last guy on the moon. So the first guy on the moon, last man on the moon, the guy of Apollo 13, and then a guy who's known by all the Americans. I didn't know who he was, but he's some famous journalist who reported on all the moon stuff, and he was there as well. And it was incredible, And I got some pictures, and got some pictures of me with Neil Armstrong, and what was quite funny was a friend of my dad, who's a teacher, gave me a little teddy bear, and asked me to take pictures of this teddy bear wherever I went to send back to the school. And I got a picture of me, this teddy bear, and Neil Armstrong, and I sent it back to this school, and it just happened to be the week they were doing a load of stuff about space. So they were like, oh my God, over the moon, literally. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Oh, what an experience.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to trump you there, but it was just, yeah.
I think all your journey trumps you, don't you worry.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Yeah, and then he died the following year. I think. Well, yeah, it was 2011 when I met him. I think he died the following year. It's either that year or the year after. But yeah.
Amazing things.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about military and NASA.
I know. It's incredible.
Whole new thing. Because one of the guys I've interviewed, he'd actually worked with the astronauts. Yeah, he said he's been the only person ever to be granted sole access to him. And he's from Yorkshire.
That's incredible.
Yeah, honestly. It was mental, the amount of stuff he'd done. And he was just a lad from Leeds.
That's crazy, isn't it? Oh, I worked with Don McCullen as well. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Oh, Don McCullen, wow.
I did. I got a commission to film a documentary for the Imperial War Museum about Don McCullen. So we went down to his house for 3 days and we filmed him. And it was a big exhibition at the Imperial War Museum where we're running called Shaped by War. And it was all about Don McCullen. So, I shot and edited this film. And, God, we interviewed him. And it was like a 4-hour interview. And I hung on every single word. It was incredible. It was just incredible listening to him. But then I got an invite to the opening night of the exhibition and everything else. And and I just kept, he loved it. And he just kept talking about this film. And he loved the fact because I was still in the army then. And he loved the fact I was in the army. Okay. And it was incredible. Yeah, it was it's one of those things, they say never meet your heroes. But I'm so glad I did, because he is actually an amazing person. Yeah.
It's good to hear, because you just never know, do you?
But it's really nice to hear, like you say, to sort of learn that he was a nice person and so humble. And when he's talking about his time in conflict zones, how it was a real human approach that he applied to his photography. And he said people give him permission through their eyes. And if he felt if they didn't, he wouldn't take the picture. And the amount of times he put his camera down and picked someone up who was injured and helped them instead of just taking a picture of them. And he did that quite a few times. He was a real sort of humanist in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just shows some people are nice.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've found so far. I'm really lucky, I've come across people like yourself. It's because you're all dons to me, you're all master photographers and you've had such interesting lives. It's great, if we get a little snippet of knowledge from you as well. I think that's a great thing.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Everyone has got different life experiences and, I think generally most people are nice, aren't they? And willing to share, what they've learned and their own experiences and tell a few funny stories here and there. And that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I have to say thank you.
No
so
problem.
much,
I really appreciate it.
The last thing I always ask everybody is this pay it forward scheme of someone who you'd probably recommend for the show. And I think you've already said your friend in New Zealand.
Yeah, I can certainly give you Gareth's details. He'd be more than happy to chat if that's someone you'd like to speak to.
Oh, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right, well, I'm going to leave you. It's been great learning about your work and your life, and please do keep us in mind for this charity work and anything I
will do, Andy. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. And have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, mate. All the best.
Thanks a lot.
No worries. Cheers,
mate.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.